Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the 2022 NFL Draft best landing spots for your 2022 fantasy football drafts, as well as for your best ball drafts. But before we could get on into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into the NFL Draft best landing spots for fantasy football and your best ball drafts. In today's video, we will be going in depth into 5 different players. We'll begin with Drake London, wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons, underdog ADP, currently coming off the board as wide receiver number 34, pick 72.6. This list is going to be in order of ADP, so Drake London is the guy going earliest in drafts, and the 5th player will be the player going latest in drafts. So Drake London played 3 years at USC and had his true breakout season, in my opinion, in 2021. At 20 years old, he played in 8 games prior to his ankle injury. He had 88 receptions on 124 targets for 1,084 yards, and he had 7 touchdowns with a 24.80% target share in the USC offense. Now, the reason why I feel as though this is a great landing spot for Drake London to succeed in year number 1. I'm not talking about 2 years from now, 3 years from now. I'm talking about this year. What matters for redraft fantasy football and what matters for your best ball drafts is this season 2022. And while I think the Atlanta Falcons are kind of a bit of a disaster on both sides of the ball, Drake London is going to be slotted in as the clear number 1 wide receiver on this team and the clear number 1 target on this team. Calvin Ridley has been suspended for the whole season because of gambling. So they have just Kyle Pitts and Drake London. A nice exercise for you guys to do in the comment section. Let me know another wide receiver on the Atlanta Falcons team. Let me know, because it's going to be very difficult for you to even come up with a name unless you are very in-depth with this fantasy football stuff, because there are no other big-name wide receivers besides Calvin Ridley, of course, but he's not playing this year. So they have Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Those are the 2 clear key components of this Atlanta Falcons offense. Now, another argument some people may make against Drake London, why Drake London is actually not in the best landing spot, is because of his quarterback situation in year number 1 for 2022, right? He's got Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder. Now, Desmond Ridder came out and said that he was going to win a Super Bowl for the Falcons. I highly doubt that. I honestly think that the Atlanta Falcons are going to be pretty dog shit this year in terms of record, and then end up drafting a quarterback early on in the 2023 NFL draft. But Marcus Mariota isn't awful, neither is Desmond Ridder. So as long as Drake London is the clear number 1 receiver on this team, which he will be, he commanded a big target share at USC. He was fantastic at USC, and he's the clear best receiver on this roster. I think Drake London will be great for fantasy football. He will be a fantastic player in year number 1, even with the quarterback situation not being so hot, just because of the fact that he is just the clear alpha, the clear number 1 target in this offense. My next NFL draft best landing spot is going to be Treylon Burks, wide receiver of the Tennessee Titans, underdog ADP, wide receiver number 37, pick number 73.5 off of the board. Coming out of Arkansas last year, he had over 1,100 receiving yards in his junior year with 11 touchdowns. He also had 13 carries for 112 yards and a score. Now, that is not to be added on because I think Treylon Burks is fucking Deebo Samuel and is going to be seeing a bunch of receptions as well as rushing opportunities. But what that tells me is that Treylon Burks is more than just a wide receiver. He is an overall talented athlete. Didn't run the fastest 40-yard dash, a 4.55, but that's still fine. Treylon Burks, some people compared him prior to the draft to A.J. Brown, and then, funny enough, he becomes the A.J. Brown replacement because the Tennessee Titans shipped off A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't love the Tennessee Titans wide receiver core at all. They have just Burks. They have Nick Westbrook, CKIN. They have Robert Woods. I actually like Robert Woods a decent amount, but who knows how healthy he's going to be able to stay? Who knows how good he's going to be in 2022? So they really have one key target, one focal piece in this offense, aside from Derrick Henry, who is the clear focal point in this offense. It's Treylon Burks. Now, Tannehill last year played terrible compared to what we saw over the last couple of years of Ryan Tannehill. Once he took over in Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill really looked like the prime version of himself in Miami. When Ryan Tannehill was playing really good in Miami, he's almost actually better than the prime version of himself in Miami. In Tennessee, he was amazing. And last year, he kind of fell off the edge of the earth. And a lot of people are probably going to assume that that's the Tannehill we get in 2022. Whereas in my opinion, if Derrick Henry is able to stay healthy and he's there for a majority of the games, unlike last year, then we could really see Ryan Tannehill have a similar season to the last couple of years as a starter in Tennessee. Treylon Burks, like I said, is the clear number one target on this team. They are very run heavy, so it's not like Treylon Burks is the number one wide receiver on a team like the Bucs, who throw the ball a million fucking times a game. But he's still going to be the number one wide receiver in terms of targets in my book in Tennessee, so I really do like this landing spot for him. The next wide receiver to discuss is going to be Christian Watson, wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers. There are not only wide receivers in this video, though. The next player is going to be a running back, and the final player in today's video is going to be a quarterback. I bet you could guess who the quarterback is, because he was the only quarterback drafted in the first round, and the only one who I feel pretty confident saying is at least going to start some games in 2022. So Christian Watson, wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers, underdog ADP wide receiver number 47, pick 100.3 overall. In 2021, at 22 years old at NDSU, he played in 12 games, having 43 receptions for 801 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. He also had 227 special teams yards. Christian Watson is going to a situation in Green Bay with the back-to-back MVP of the NFL, Aaron Rodgers, and the wide receiver core around Christian Watson goes as follows. They've got Allen Lazard. They have old man Tombstone Randall Cobb. They have Sammy Watkins. And they have Amari Rodgers, the guy they drafted last year. So outside of that, and even those names, those aren't big names. It's not like Christian Watson was drafted to the Packers and has to compete with Davante Adams. Davante Adams is no longer there. Now, the biggest concern with Christian Watson is that, in my opinion, I don't think it's a lock that he will become the number one wide receiver, but I do think that there's a pretty good chance that at least for some point of the season, eventually, he does become a lead key piece in this offense. Aaron Rodgers likes to find that number one target. And I think that with the draft capital invested in Christian Watson, the fact that Aaron Rodgers whipped out his cell phone and called Christian Watson after he was drafted is like, hey, let's do some great things in Green Bay. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't even talk to his fucking parents, but he was willing to call Christian Watson. So that's a good news, at least in my book. So I think Christian Watson will be very fantasy relevant in year number one. Now, there is a chance that somehow he just gets buried in this depth chart, right? That for some reason, Sammy Watkins is seeing more playing time, that Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, because of the fact that he's a rookie, right? These are veterans in the NFL. Allen Lazard has shown some flashes, but at the end of the day, at the end of the season, would I be surprised if Watson was the number one wide receiver there? Not at all. So I like Christian Watson a ton. Wide receiver 47 off the board right now, an underdog pick 100.3. And speaking of underdog, that's the sponsor of today's video. Our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, is known for their NFL best ball tournaments. However, Underdog does not stop there. Underdog has plenty of other contests for you to compete in, including live draft contests and pick'ems in which you can make up to 20 times your entry fee. Use promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. Please make sure that you guys do go ahead and get started on Underdog Fantasy today. If you don't want to type in the promo code Awesemo, you can just click on the link in the video description. It will automatically import the promo code in there for you. For Underdog Fantasy, we do drafts every single Monday on Underdog Fantasy. Today is Monday, so we'll be doing a draft. If you want to hop in there with us, make sure that you guys just watch the stream. It is going to be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be doing that every single Monday, so please make sure you check it out. It is a lot of fun to do Underdog Fantasy drafts. I play on there all the time. So back on into the video, my next favorite NFL draft best landing spot player is going to be Dameon Pierce, running back of the Houston Texans, underdog ADP, running back number 42, pick 130.3. At 23 years old at Florida, he played in 13 games, having 100 rushing attempts for 574 rushing yards, 19 receptions for 216 receiving yards, and 16 total touchdowns on the season. Now, Dameon Pierce at no point in Florida was the quote-unquote workhorse running back, right? He's no Derrick Henry at the NFL level, no Jonathan Taylor, right? He's no clear number one running back, but he was a part of a committee and he was very successful. When you get just 100 total rushing attempts and 19 receptions, you score 16 total touchdowns. Clearly, you're doing something right. And the backfield in Houston is pretty up in the air, right? They got Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack's an interesting player, has dealt with some injuries in the past. Could he be the number one running back on the team? Sure, he could. They got Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead has a history of just being one of the guys in a backfield, right? He's never the guy that is the lead rusher on the team, but, you know, you get a few plays designed for Rex Burkhead every game, and Rex Burkhead is all right. Then they have Dare Ogunbowale, famous for being drafted by many fantasy players, ahead of James Robinson a couple years ago when James Robinson had that great year in 2020. So these names like Marlon Mack, Rex Burkhead, Dare Ogunbowale, no one really sticks out there. But they did draft Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce wasn't drafted in the first round, wasn't drafted very early on. But he does, in my opinion, have a good shot at becoming the number one running back on the Houston Texans, and he's being drafted as running back 42. He's being drafted outside of the top 32. So at pick 130, when you're late in your best ball draft, when you're late in your fantasy football redraft draft, I'm fine taking the shot, throwing the dart on Dameon Pierce, because I really do believe that in Houston, he could be the number one running back there. It's not like they're just magically going to bring someone else in, most likely. So with the backfield that they have, again, Marlon Mack, Rex Burkhead, Dare Ogunbowale, and Dameon Pierce, don't be surprised at all in September, in week fucking 1, if Dameon Pierce is the starting running back. The Houston Texans aren't a team that I expect to be leaps and bounds better than they were last year. But as an offense, I think Davis Mills might be able to step up a little, and Dameon Pierce could be in a pretty solid situation to succeed. Again, anytime you can get a running back that might be the starter on his team in week 1 at pick 130, at pick 100 plus, at running back 42 off the board, I'm going to take that shot every time. I'm going to take the shot on the upside that Pierce could have. And like I said, if he's the number one running back, just remember that I told it to you right now on May 9th. 2022 final player. I know I kind of did spoil him a little bit. It's going to be Kenny Pickett, quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Underdog ADP quarterback 30 off of the board, pick 208.1 in his 5th year at Pittsburgh, the college. At the age of 23, it took him 5 years to graduate college. It took me the same amount of time. Actually, it took me 4.5 years. He threw the rock 497 times for 4,319 passing yards, 42 touchdowns, 7 INTs, having a 67.20% completion percentage, 97 rushes for 241 yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns. He does have some rushing upside. I don't expect him to be Lamar Jackson, don't expect him to be Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, but maybe a Patrick Mahomes-like rushing season where he's not always rushing it, but if given the opportunity, he can do it. Right? He's more closer to, now I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying, like, in terms of rushing upside, like, he's closer to that than he is to, like, Tom Brady, who's just going to stand there in the fucking pocket. So Kenny Pickett, quarterback 30 off the board, despite the fact that, in my opinion, there's a pretty good chance that Pickett starts a majority of the games this season for the Steelers. I don't think you draft a quarterback in the first fucking round if you don't plan to play him. Now, is he going to be the starter week number 1? That could be up for interpretation, up for discussion, right? I'm not sure he's going to be the guy week number 1, right? They have Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky, the king of kissing titties, is not some scrub, right? I really think Matt Nagy kind of fucked this guy over. So I think he's a little bit better than most people give him credit for. But at the end of the day, is Trubisky, who they are paying not that much money, right? Chase Edmonds and Mitch Trubisky have a pretty similar contract. So it's not like the Steelers have this humongous investment into Mitch Trubisky. They just don't. So if Kenny Pickett is the guy a couple weeks in the season, you shouldn't be surprised. I think I would be a little bit shocked if he was the guy week number 1, but a couple weeks in the season, I think Kenny Pickett's going to take over. He was drafted into an excellent situation with a great coach, like based upon all the landing spots where he could have went in the NFL draft, this is probably best case scenario. And a quarterback 30 on the Steelers, I'm just going to take the shot on Kenny Pickett. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If I did not talk about a player that you think had an excellent landing spot in the 2022 NFL draft, you think this is going to be great for your number one in fantasy football and best ball drafts? Let me know down below in the comment section. Again, guys, please make sure you do check out our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Again, they are known for their NFL best ball tournaments, but Underdog doesn't stop there. Underdog has plenty of other contests for you to compete in, including live draft contests and pick'ems, in which you can make up to 20 times your entry fee. Please make sure that you guys do use promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, for a first match deposit bonus of up to $100, or click the link in the video description. I love you guys all so much. I hope you guys do have a great rest of your guys' day, and as always, good boy.